Today we'll take a look at the Sharpeville Massacre, which occurred March 21st, 1960 in Sharpeville, South Africa. Since South Africa had an apartheid government, there were many restrictive actions taken against the black population. Part of those actions were the requirement of passbooks. Passbooks were required to be carried by individuals over the age of 16. These books contained an identity card, employment and influx authorization from the Labor Bureau, name of employer and address, and details of personal history. The passbooks were largely used to enforce greater racial segregation, as access to certain areas could be limited based on race. These passbooks were also used as an instrument by the state to detain and harass political opponents. At the time, a new police station was created in Sharpeville. As such, the police had the manpower and additional time to monitor and check passes, which would lead to the expulsion of illegal residents. At the time, the ANC, or the African National Congress, had enough of the apartheid regime and the racial segregation. So they planned to initiate protest on March 31st, 1960. However, not to be outdone, the PAC, or the Pan-Africanist Congress, decided to preempt the ANC by launching their own campaign 10 days prior. This was done on March 21st, 1960. On that day, March 21st, 1960, a group of about 5,000 to 10,000 people all gathered outside of the local Sharpeville police station. Their goal was to get arrested for not carrying their passbooks. The PAC hoped to organize a big movement and demonstration, so they advised people not to go to work on the day of the protest. At 10 o'clock in the morning, there was already a large crowd outside of the Sharpeville police station. There were less than 20 police officers inside the station. Soon after, the crowd of protesters swelled to about 20,000 as the mood heightened. This prompted about 130 additional police reinforcements. The police were armed with firearms, submachine guns, and rifles. It was largely witnessed amongst the group of protesters that there were no weapons other than rocks and stones. Government jets were also called in, and they were instructed to fly at low altitudes in an attempt to cause the protester crowd to scatter. The crowd responded by throwing stones and rocks at the police, and they attempted to rush police barricades. At about 1 o'clock p.m., the police attempted to arrest a protester. Upon witnessing this arrest, the crowd of protesters became agitated and they began to surge forward. This is when the shooting began. The police did all of the shooting. When the totals were tallied, the official figures were that there were 69 people killed, which included 8 women and 10 children. There were also 180 people injured. That included 31 women and 19 children. It is believed that the police indiscriminately shot at the crowd. Many of the victims were shot in the back as they attempted to run from the barrage of bullets given by the police. Many of them became paralyzed. The shooting lasted about 40 seconds. During a police report that occurred after the incident, the shootings were attributed to young and inexperienced police officers who panicked and opened fire against the protesters. Subsequent to the Sharpeville Massacre, there was immediate uproar amongst the South African black population. There were protests, marches, strikes, riots all around the country, and on March 30th, 1960, the South African government declared a state of emergency. They detained about 18,000 people around the country. That number included many prominent anti-apartheid activists such as Nelson Mandela. The South African government also created the Unlawful Organizations Act of 1960, which banned anti-apartheid groups such as the PAC, or the Pan-African Congress, and the ANC, the African National Congress. South Africa's government repressive measures actually had the opposite effect, as they ushered in subsequent decades of resistance and newly found protests in the country and increasing condemnation by world leaders of apartheid governments. With the election of Nelson Mandela in 1994 as president of South Africa, the apartheid system finally ended. In 1994, nearby the location of the Sharpeville Massacre, Nelson Mandela signed the nation's first apartheid constitution. Thanks for watching. To subscribe and support, please click the circular button. For additional content, please click one of the top 2 videos up top.